A group of guys. It's not just me. We have a team of guys, and usually they would start. We have a crew that would usually go to the various intakes, do visual inspections, do cleaning, because a lot of the areas they're actually fed from the intake. So we do go make sure they're cleaned. There's no dead animals. There's no leaves. And just by basically doing a visual inspection to make sure there is no kind of contamination, and to make sure that water is actually flowing from the intakes down to the various distribution tanks or to the treatment plant for daily consumption. Not only that, still at the team, we also make sure generally it's cleaning around the island. We do a little bit of maintenance in the terms of cleaning, and we work hand in hand with other teams in the department just to make sure that the daily operations of the water department are run smoothly.
Okay, so I have a very good sense of what it is that you do individually. You perhaps got a glimpse of my next question, because I was about to ask how your roles intersect. Have there been times when you have had to work closely with the quality department? If so, what does that entail? Mr. Carty.
Yes, we do. We work hands in hand at times, sometimes, even for the common vehicle. We might have to share. I might have to call Sean and say, yo, I want this to be happening, or I want that to be happening. It's the same if they have a tank or reservoir to clean. We will have to go and do some shutting down of the valves, or opening or diverting the water someplace else, and them kind of stuff. So we have to work hand in hand to get certain things done.
Wonderful. And it seems to be working well, given the climate that we're in right now, undergoing, of course, continuous drought, it seems.
Yes, like I say, we do work as a team, because, for instance, when his guys are making inspection, making checks, they would notify me, or, for instance, no water is coming from this intake, so I'll have to get a team ready to go and do some inspection to see if it's clean, if it is blocked, what the situation is, why we're not getting any water. So we do work hand in hand. He needs assistance with certain jobs. I mean, I'll lend a helping hand. It's not just an individual effort, it's a team effort. So our parts do cross at times. He lays new pipelines. Sometimes my guys would have to come in and do chlorination, sterilize the pipelines before we actually put them into use. They work in on a tank, change a valve. Sometimes my team would have to go in and actually clean the tank, sterilize it, whatever it takes, before we actually fill it back with water, so his team could distribute the water to various consumers.
And just listening to you, I'm getting a better sense of a lot of the things that I think your customers would take for granted, things that you do before we get the water on our end. And I want to say thank you for the work that you do as well. So as we move now into a little bit of a discussion on field operations, I'm going to turn again to Mr. Carty here and ask for some common issues, or perhaps difficulties with infrastructure that you've come across in the field, and how you work around that.
Well, for infrastructure, you have different infrastructures there. You have water, you have skeleton, you have flow, you have cable. And I have to liaise with these different teams every time we're doing certain works, because if we go to do a job tomorrow out in the field, and we can't just go and just start digging to lay a pipe, because if we just go and we start digging to lay a pipe, you might run into 11,000 volts cable or power line from Skellig. You could damage that power line, and the entire country is out of electricity, because I could send back something to the power station, and that could cause a blackout. As a matter of fact, that happened some years ago in Birdwalk. We was doing some work, and the entire country was blocked out because of that. So for that, we have to be very, very careful, and we try to never let something like that happen again. So before we go on that job site, we always get in touch with all the others, call them, let them know we're going from this time to that time. Same thing with them. They will call me and I will tell them, you can't dig nothing until my guys get there. Just to avoid the same thing. the whole of Birdwalk, the whole of Frigate Bay could be out of water, could be for days. It all depends on the nature of the damage that was done. So basically, that's one of the ticklish thing we would admit, you know, when we're out in that field.
It says to me that there is a level of cooperation among these entities that we don't even see.
Right.
So before you move, there has to be that coordination.
It must happen.
Wonderful. Mr. Greenaway, I'm turning to you now to ask a little bit more about water quality and what are the main factors that would impact the water quality in St. Kitts, and how do you test for them? Or
in terms of quality, there's a lot of things that could affect the quality of the water. For instance, Mr. Carter just spoke about the coordination with SCELEC and other entities. They could go in an area, dig an area, and for instance, rupture a pipeline. Just from that rupture, you could have a leak. You could have maybe it's close to area that got sewage, get a drainage, sewage get into the pipeline. You do some health department, they do the testing, and they realize in that area the quality of the water is unsatisfactory. You probably go to the source, you check, the quality there is good. So in between, just from that little break, it could cause a problem to the quality of the water itself, unknown to them. You know, they're doing their daily job. Their job is just to fix the pipe, but when they rupture the pipe, they cause a chain reaction along the way. Other things too, the general public. Simple things, for instance, you have an issue like in the Bastille Valley, where guys go and they dump garbage. Instead of taking it to the landfill, they dump it there. The garbage could contaminate the well. They could have maybe some kind of oil, maybe some kind of poison. It spills, gets down to the aquifer, causes a whole problem. So sometimes they might feel, yeah, just train it there, save them $2. But what you're doing, trying to save $2 in your pocket, you're creating a bigger problem. Not just for you. Maybe you're the same one who dump it there. You reach back to your house, you get the water, you get sick. Now you blame the water department, but you do not realize it's based on your action causing the problem, you know. So the general public too, I'll advise them not to just discard of their waste anywhere. Take it to the landfill, or the necessary persons, whoever is they contract to do the job, make sure they get rid of the waste the proper way.
And that's a very important point, so I thank you for making that. Something that you said I do want to follow up on, and it also applies to you, Mr. Carty. I want to ask you to describe what happens when a contamination issue is either reported or detected, that's for you, and what happens when a leak is reported or detected. So I'll follow up with you.
Okay, for us, a lot of the times, like I say, we work hand in hand with the health department, and they do their monthly inspections, and this is where the science comes in, or data comes in, based on the analysis of the water. It's done using, let's say, a range of numbers. So let's say from 1 to 5, I'm just calling a random number. Might be safe yield. Then when you start to go over 5, you realize you're getting into the threshold of being dangerous. So they use the numbers, and based with random testing, once the numbers within a certain range, you know it's safe. Then when they start to go over and they realize, they would notify us of some kind of contamination. Probably might be something simple. Even when we have heavy rainfalls, you get contamination. You know, when you do the testing, they get high levels, like for instance, fecal coliform and stuff like that. So
I want you to break that down just in case somebody misses exactly what that means.
Well, fecal coliform usually it's from human waste. It usually derived from the human waste or animals. Someone could have, for instance, animals upstream of your intake, like a farm, and the waste that the animals produce runs down into the catchment area. So when you do your testing, there'll be a spike. You know, it's you don't want any kind of fecal contamination. You know, so when you find that, you know, you either have to shut down, like I say, the chain reaction, you shut down the well, you might have to shut down a well, you might have to shut down the intake, and the more you keep shutting down, is the less water there will be to actually distribute. You know, so you have to stay on top of your testing, your inspection. You know, a lot of this is done on a daily basis. It's not just inspect today and then tomorrow you relax. It's a constant, because sometimes even for instance, at the wells, even the soil, the makeup of the soil could cause contamination, because a lot of these chemicals, ions, or whatever you want to call them, they actually naturally occurring in soil and stuff like that. So maybe it's for years and years, and it start washing, there's a cave in, and then you get a spike in some of these ions. So it's like a constant inspection going on. It's not just like a one-off today and then you leave it till next year. You know, even in some of the wells, we have monitoring. There's an app on my phone that I could actually log into, and it gives you actually what's happening in the well real time. You know, so even that the technology is there. So
that's good to know. And one of the things that I do want to pick up on, and I'll do this with Mr. Carty, is the importance of response time. I'm actually very relieved that you've assured the public that you're monitoring this on a daily basis and you're checking for those changes. So as we talk about response times in relation to what happens when leaks or breaks in water distribution, the line of some sort, is reported or detected, what happens on your end?
Well, both. As the first one, in terms of there is a leak, or just in terms of contamination, then that one, you have no time space when it comes to that. You have to move on that right away. When it comes to, just like skeleton might go, or any of the other utilities might go and break a pipe. You might have, right where they break that pipe, you might have a drain running there. And because they break that pipe, some of the times the public wouldn't realize that, because the pressure in the pipe, our pipeline, is so much heavier than what's coming in. So because it's coming in that low, it wouldn't be able to enter easily. But if there's a case like that, we try to turn the water off as soon as possible, so that wastewater that's going into the pipe, it wouldn't continue, because we're going to shut off an area so it wouldn't continue going to the homeowners and them kind of stuff. We'll contact quality control, so they will come in, we'll do the repairs, they will have to sterilize the line and make sure you get all of that out of the system. Do a testing first before they could put back the water on and that kind of stuff. So that's what we usually do.
Well, I tell you again, hearing that from you is definitely reassuring. It's good to know that water services is in very good and capable hands. So as we move now to, I would say, a ticklish, but not so ticklish, but sort of interesting question about any areas on the island that might require more frequent attention from your divisions than others. Yes, Mr. Greenway.
For me, well, I would say yes and still say no, because I mean the monitoring is 24 hours. You should monitor the entire island, but for instance, areas like, I'll say, Old Road, you know, Large, Phillips's, those areas are actually fed by most of the time by surface water. That's actually running water that's running down the gut, the rivers and stuff like that. So we have a team, the guys, they go every day to like I said, do the visual inspection and stuff like that. So it's not like you prioritize any area, but because these areas are open, the intakes are open, they require more frequent testing. For instance, at the wells are, you could say they actually cover some of them are a few hundred feet on the ground, so it will take some while before you could even detect any kind of contamination, or even if there's a oil spill, it will take some while before it actually reaches. So your frequency might not be as much as the intakes, which is more open.
Understood. And Mr. Carty?
Yes, there's a few areas where we pay really close attention to as we speak. give kudos to the ministry. I could say for Keon was there for a lot of years, but we basically have Keon under control now, where people have 24 hours water. I would say maybe 98% of it. You might have a little slim 2% where you have some issues, but we're going to have that problem rectified pretty soon. St. Peter's, we're still having some issues in the St. Peter's area, still, which we're working on very, very close right now. This is going to be hands in hand with the desal plant that we're putting in place. Soon as that desal plant up and running, St. Peter's going to be in a very, very good position, way better than it is today. Shadwell area, we have that same issue, and that is because one of our wells, we have some issues with the well, so we used to basically be pumping like maybe 296 gallons per minute from that well on a daily basis. Now we pumping maybe like just say 86 from it, so it's a huge drop in that. So because of that, it causes us that we have to be doing some rationing even in the daytime in that area. But all of that, like as I said, with the desal plant coming on stream, that they would be rectified pretty soon. And we have some issues on the Southeast Peninsula also. There's a project we have gonna be starting maybe in I would say just after the desal plant, because that they get kind of first preference over it. But as soon as we finish the desal plant, we're gonna be going to the Southeast Peninsula to get that project done.
And well, that's good news for the people there as well.
Yeah.
Even in terms of the monitoring, again, I'll have to say special thanks to some of the general public. For instance, the guys at the various bottling companies, they would really call the department. Some call me personally, and they would say when they have a spike in certain minerals or the quality of the water, so you would go and look into it, because they have their machines monitor all the time. So when it goes out of range, they would call and they would say, so it gives you personally, they help us to monitor what we are doing the same way, So even if I missed it, sometimes their machines would pick it up, and because sometimes they themselves can't even bottle the water. So, they're losing business, they're losing money, so they call the department, It's not a good feeling on their behalf, but still, it's a way to help us to monitor the product that we're actually giving out to the general public.
And definitely, I appreciate your making that point, and I appreciate them for doing that as well. Sort of like double point check system that we have from the public through your corporation with them, so that's very good as well. We have just a few moments left, roughly just a few, so if anybody wants to ask any questions of these gentlemen, feel free to call. We'll monitor the lines very closely, and okay, we don't have callers yet, but we'll continue this conversation this way. I did say at the very beginning that we'll talk about technology and innovation, and you mentioned some of it by pointing to the app, Mr. Greenaway, that you're using to monitor. So I'll direct this question initially to Mr. Carty. What innovations, if any, have there been in repairs that are making a difference? So use of technology, repair-wise, what can you tell us?
Well, for repairs, we don't have a wide variety in terms of technology, in terms of doing any repairs and what's not, and so in terms of on that end, we have technology going to in terms of the levels of the tanks and those kind of stuff. We have that technology there, and as Sean said, to monitor the well and that kind of stuff. We basically working on a SCADA system.
Right.
We think we would have sent off something for that already, and then that would be a wide in terms of technology, because I could stay from here and use my phone or stay in the office and shut off a valve just from on the computer and that kind of stuff. But we don't have that in place presently as we speak, in terms of the maintenance and that kind of stuff. But coming soon.
All right, I love what you're doing here. That's like a movie trailer. Coming soon to the WSD.
Coming soon.
Better technology, more efficient service, reliability. I love that. I need to use your voice on something. All right, so Mr. Greenaway, anything to add on this one?
Yeah, well, from Mr. Carty's end as well, the laying of the new pipelines we are doing is something actually that is new to the department. It's not new to the island because other places actually did that before, fusion, like at Ross and them and places. But for the department end, it's something new for us. Some of the guys are keen on learning the technology in terms of operating the machine and getting a hang of it on a whole. So that is something new for us, and I guess Kurt had more experience from that end in terms of dealing with the fusion. But if my knowledge serves me right, once those pipes are laid, I mean, it's actually better than the old system we were using, the pipes we were using. They would last a longer time if there's no defects in them. So it's something new to us. And a lot of the guys are keen on learning. Even the desalination plant, the introduction of the desalination plant, the system would be computerized, and you just need the guys there to monitor. You still need the human aspect of it, to change the filters and stuff like that. But to do certain work, you don't have to always go and turn on a pump and everything. The technology is there, everything would be run automatically. So we are moving in the right direction in terms of making the system and us providing water for the general public even better in the future. Like Kurt said, coming soon. We're just asking the public to have the faith in us. I mean, we're trying our best to get the water back to 24 hours, but everything takes a little bit of time. And the guys are actually been working hard, even with this new system at Burdock. Many nights the guys are working from 7 in the morning, sometimes 10, 11 at night, or even longer. Kurt could even speak more on that. But, we are trying hard to get everything back in order. So, like you said, coming soon or shortly, you'll be able to turn on your taps, 24 hours and you'll have water.
I don't have anything to add to that because that's a great final word. So I want to thank my guests for joining me for another edition of The Waterline. Mr. Kurt Carty, Inspector of Works, Mr. Sean Grunaway, Inspector of Quality. I am Jamie Morris, Communications Officer in the Ministry of Public Infrastructure, Energy, Utilities, and Domestic Transport, inviting you to follow us on Facebook. You can follow the Water Services on Facebook. You can follow the ministry via the website mopieUDT.gov.kn and also water.gov.kn. Until next time, have a good one. Bye-bye.
Hey, have you heard about the water shortage in our area?
Yeah, it's pretty serious. I've been trying to conserve water as much as possible.
Me too. I've started taking